How good do I look? Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. If you are new, which many of you might be, my name is Megan. I'm a mom of two. I was a registered nurse before having kids, and then I worked in health education, holistic education, and we attempt to homeschool. So that's what you often find here. But after many years, I finally got a formal diagnosis 2 days ago. I just got out of the hospital. How do I look? Of postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. They are still looking at some underlying issues, and I've got lots of doctor's appointments coming up. One of the reasons that the main reason that I became a nurse was in my early 20s, I had a series of really severe autoimmune attacks where I had ongoing inflammation and joint pain. My hair fell out. They were never really able to pinpoint a cause. I sort of figured out that a lot of inflammation was coming from my environment. I was working in makeup and special effects at the time. I used a lot of products on people and on myself, and I got rid of everything crappy in my food and quit working with products and kind of went all natural, and that helped my inflammation, and it stopped a lot of the pain by 90% of the pain over 4 or 5 years of cutting everything out. But since I was 6, I have been a fainter. I faint, and I've been told my whole life that I just faint. I faint when I stand for too long. I also don't sweat at all when I work out, so I overheat very easily in the sun if it's over 75 or any kind of high intensity workout. I'm out. And that's never gotten better, but I'm very, very good at being careful and kind of knowing my limits. Now, over the last few years, my limits have shrunk from, being able to stand for 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, if it was cold. I can do that. But now, a couple minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, before I get dizzy and lightheaded and palpitations. Not everybody with POTS faints, but I faint. So I do actually lose consciousness and hit the ground. In fact, when I left nursing, when I officially left nursing after my daughters were born, I wanted to stay home and really focus more on education, but I attempted to work PRN, which is like occasional kind of hospital gigs. Now, I had always worked inpatient where I could sit, specifically because I knew I needed to sit. I passed out several times in nursing school, even while taking precautions, so I knew that wasn't something that was going to be sustainable. But I figured working at a less intense hospital setting once in a while would be okay. Made it 25 minutes into my first day, and I woke up in a wheelchair having blacked out and throwing up in the middle of the hallway. They didn't like me after that, so I did not work after that. That was about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Gosh, I don't know what year it is. COVID actually has been the reason that it has taken me so long to be diagnosed. I had a really bad flare about 3 years ago, and was in the emergency room. They suggested that I see a cardiologist because the doctor on call said, "This looks like POTS." I had never even heard of POTS, even after nursing school. I'd been a nurse for 5 years. I had done a cardiology rotation, never heard of it. So I did some research, and I had a lot of the symptoms. And when I say a lot, I mean actually I had all of them, pretty much. And it was a little weird, I went to my primary care physician at the time, who completely dismissed that, said, you just had your second baby, you're dehydrated and exhausted, this is not that. And then about a month later, she ordered an echocardiogram. She said, your heart looks fine. About a month later, we moved across the country to where we live now, and it took about 4 months to get our insurance, and that was December, or I think we got our insurance in November of 2020, 2019. So 2020 hits, and then COVID started. So we only had our insurance for a few months. We were looking for a primary care doctor that would take our crappy insurance, and I was never able to even get in to see somebody here before COVID hit. And then it just never happened. And frankly, I was doing really well because I no longer had to go to the grocery store, which had been a huge problem for me before. I mean, probably 1 out of 4 times that I went to the grocery store, the wait, there was more than one person in front of me in line, and then I would have to abandon my cart and leave and come back at another time because I started feeling sick and I knew I was going to pass out, and I didn't want to lay on the floor in the middle of the grocery store like a weirdo, which I have done before. I've also fainted in a grocery store, and that is no fun. So with COVID, we got everything delivered. My kids didn't have to go anywhere. We live in a 900 square foot house or apartment in student housing. My husband's in grad school. We don't even have stairs here. Like, it was actually kind of nice. But now it is summer, and it is a billion freaking degrees this summer. If you're watching this anytime this video goes up, you might know that it's a really hot summer, and I'm not functioning anymore. So I passed out about 2 weeks ago, and typically, when you pass out, you put your legs up in the air. I get really, I get in an ice bath or put ice on me to cool myself down, drink a bunch of water, and I feel better in a couple of hours, maybe a day. I'm fine. I'm all better. Back to baseline. Not this time. So a couple years ago, my best friend gave me an Apple Watch for my birthday, which I never wear because, again, I never leave my house because COVID. And I'm not really a tech person. Like, this is as techie as I get with y'all. Not a big fan. So it just isn't something that I wore much. So I put this on and I started checking my pulse, and then I knew I was in trouble. I was going from 58 or 60 lying down to 155, 160 brushing my teeth just in a matter of 90 seconds. And I was starting to get super exhausted. I was out of breath. And after about 9 days, I started having bad chest pain every time it would get high. And then I took a shower, which I should have known better. And then I got stuck in the 160s, and I was in a lot of pain. So I put my kids to bed. And I went to the emergency room. I went to emergency room number 1. Because emergency room number 1 went, you're having chest pain? Okay, honey. And I was like, I'm not having a heart attack. I'm just saying that it hurts because it's been going so fast. And they were like, okay. Yes, it's fast, but okay. And then I did eventually see a doctor 4 hours later. And the doctor said, ooh, this looks like POTS. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that before, but life and children, and I moved and I wasn't able to get seen. And she was like, yeah, that's not great. You need to see a cardiologist. We'll get you sorted out. And they were like, but you have kids, and I mean, you look fine. So we'll get it sorted out later. And so she gave me a referral to a cardiologist and sent me home. And that was it. I mean, like, they did a stat EKG and blood work, and they were like, bye. So I went home, and I was on bed rest for 2 days until Monday morning when I called the cardiologist, who said, we don't take your insurance, sorry, can't see you. So I didn't have a PCP here, so I called everybody in the state, found someone. They couldn't see me for a few weeks, and I was like, okay, what do I do? Told them what was going on. Got a nurse. I love nurses. Probably because I am a nurse. And the nurse was like, oh, hell no. Why didn't they admit you? What the hell? And I was like, I know, but like, I guess I'm fine. And she was like, you're not fine. This is not fine. So that was a bad day. I was not feeling good. I was too out of breath really to talk on the phone. And she was like, you have to go back to the hospital. So we called my mother-in-law to fly here to watch my children, because of course this is happening when my husband is in a very important residency for his graduation, and he only has 3 weeks left. And if he doesn't finish this, he doesn't graduate in December, we would really like to be done with grad school. So my mother-in-law flew in that day, and which was really hard for me because I don't ask for help well or ever. Just not my thing. And I said, I really am nervous about going back to the emergency room since the other one didn't really do anything, even though I'm really not feeling well, you know. And so the doctor was like, well, come here, and if, you know, we can just get you into a cardiologist, we'll do that. So they got me an emergency appointment, walked into the PCP office, and the doctor was like, are you kidding? Go to the hospital. Okay, sorry. So I went to a hospital. I went to a different hospital. That hospital took my vitals, saw my pulse change sitting to standing, and just took me right to the back. Put me on a heart monitor. The heart monitor started going off when I stood up to get my blood pressure cuff on. And then they had me with a cardiologist within a couple of hours. I got another echocardiogram, an EKG, chest x-rays, a bunch of labs. They squeezed in a liter of saline in like an hour. If you know anything about IVs, it was pretty quick. And the cardiologist came down and was like, oh yeah, you got POTS. And I knew that, but if you have POTS or think that you have POTS, you will know that it doesn't matter how perfectly your symptoms match, how crappy you feel. There is just part of you that feels like it can't really be that. It can't really be something. There must, like, I am somehow manifesting this. I've been told my whole life that I just faint or that I'm having panic attacks, even though I don't hyperventilate, that, you know, I'm just stressed or something. And the doctor was like, oh no, like, this is POTS. He was like, now, there may be other things. You may have SVT, you may have AFib. Like, I don't see any AFib, I don't see any other things, but we're still gonna look. He was like, there's a couple of other, you know, wonky things with my blood work that he was like, could be normal, could be something. I do still have some markers for some autoimmune stuff, even though there's nothing definitive right now. So we are looking at all the things, and I've got this beauty. I'll flash you. Are you ready? For 2 days, there is nothing in the world that itches more than this. Just so you know. This tape sucks. Like, ugh. I also have had, thank God my mother-in-law's here, because like my 3.5-year-old is just like, what is that? I want to play with that. So this comes off finally. Tonight is just 48 hours and I get to rip this tape off of me. I've had a lot of episodes, symptoms. I am far less symptomatic than I was in the hospital. They gave me some meds and a whole lot of IVs. I got 2 bags of IVs. But I have been pretty symptomatic. So every time I'm out of breath or have bad palpitations, skip a beat, get dizzy, I write it down and write what I was doing. And I get to drink, I'm supposed to drink 2.5 of these a day. And I'm attempting to figure out how to eat 5,000 to 7,000 milligrams of salt a day, which is what they want me to start with. And I'm just doing my pulse. I tend to wear this mostly during the day, and then when it gives me a crazy number, I check it with this, because I never believe that my heart rate is really going that fast, even though it feels that fast. But I do like to check because I'm weird like that, and I'm a nurse. And I got my mom sent me pretty compression stockings. So I have my pretty compression stockings. And now the big thing will be to rest enough so that when my mother-in-law leaves, I will hopefully not be super symptomatic with my girls at home. I only have, I think I have just over 2 weeks left of my husband's final, sorry, brain fog. It's a POTS thing, I swear. Residency. I only have 2 weeks left of residency before he is done. He'll have several weeks off, and then he has a very light fall schedule where he won't be out of the house very much before he graduates. So that is really good. I have several doctor's appointments between now and then anyways, and hopefully we will get well managed. Palpitations. If you have questions or comments, I can't even imagine how flighty this video probably is or looks, because I'm still a bit messy, but I hope it's helpful to see a video of somebody who's more in the moment, which is what we are here with dysautonomia. But I'm happy to answer any questions or anything, and hopefully I will have more information, good content for you in the future regarding this kind of a thing. If you have symptoms, if you feel sick, if you feel like you aren't being heard, get a second opinion or a third opinion or a fourth opinion, because I've been hospitalized for fainting a dozen times, half a dozen times. I mean, I've been in the emergency room for this 3 times, recently. But it just took one place to say, I know what this is. We're just going to test you. We're going to look at you. And once they did my orthostatic standing, sitting, or laying, sitting, standing, they were like, oh, yeah. I didn't have to do a tilt table test, by the way, if you were wondering, because the cardiologist came down and did a bunch of other stuff, and I'd had my orthostatics were so evident. He said that he didn't really feel the need to make me faint, since a tilt table test does not only indicate POTS. So I appreciated that he didn't make me faint. I'm fine with that. I'm not worried about that at all. So, any other questions, comments, stories? Until next time, bye guys.